They say you can tell a lot about a person by their car. Well, in 1965, if you rolled up in a Ford Thunderbird, you weren't just telling people you had money, you were telling them you wanted the world to know it. But here's the thing. The 1965 Thunderbird wasn't just a fancy cruiser. Under all that chrome, it was hiding secrets Ford didn't exactly print in the brochure. I'm talking about engineering wizardry that could make you gasp, and maintenance nightmares that could make you cry. This car had a reputation for being ahead of its time, but also for being a ticking time bomb of complexity. Want power? It had it, sorta. Want style? Oh, it oozed it. Want reliability? Well, that's another story entirely. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the 1965 Ford Thunderbird. We're going to explore why it was both a masterpiece and a bit of a con job, with design decisions so strange, you'll wonder if Ford's engineers were just trying to prank us all. And before we dive in, smash that subscribe button like you're slamming that Thunderbird's heavy steel door shut. It helps us keep bringing you these deep dives into the wildest corners of automotive history. But first, let's look at the secret that made getting in and out of this car a genuine party trick. Let's start with the feature that had every 1960s salesman puffing their chest out, the swing-away steering wheel. When you opened the door, the entire steering column swung to the side like a polite butler bowing. Suddenly, climbing into that plush, aircraft-inspired seat was easy as pie. For buyers, it felt like stepping into the future, but Ford didn't exactly advertise the fine print. This mechanism was a diva. Treat it wrong and it could jam, misalign, or refuse to budge. Service departments got real good at quietly fixing these without telling you how common the problem was. It was part of the Thunderbird's brand of luxury theatre. Looked amazing, worked most of the time. And when it didn't, it cost a pretty penny to fix. What made it even funnier? The design wasn't even truly new in '65. It was a holdover Ford kept refining from earlier models. Like that friend who refuses to admit they peaked in high school, Ford kept showing it off even when it needed some serious counselling. But the swing-away was just the appetizer. Next up, let's talk about what was lurking under that mile-long hood. This is where the Thunderbird's promise of power meets some hard and thirsty truths. Okay, let's pop that enormous hood. Seriously, you could land a helicopter on it. Underneath sat Ford's 390 cubic inch 6.4-litre V8. On paper, pretty beastly. Around 300 horsepower and a whopping 427 lb-ft of torque. It sounded like the car could tear asphalt off the road. But let's be honest, this was less muscle car and more muscle cruiser. Weighing well over 4,500 pounds, the Thunderbird was no lightweight sprinter. It was the heavyweight boxer who preferred a slow dance to a punch-out. Owners quickly realized it was thirsty. We're talking 8-10 miles per gallon on a good day. And that was with leaded premium. Ford was strategic in how they sold this. They hyped the power, the effortless cruising, the luxury. But they didn't mention you might need your own oil refinery to keep it going. Funny enough, Ford engineers were working on a 428 option at the time, a real monster, but didn't release it until 1966. So 1965 buyers got the good enough engine, while Ford quietly planned to one-up themselves a year later. It's like selling you a big slice of cake, then telling you, oh, there's a better one coming tomorrow. But while the engine had its quirks, it wasn't the Thunderbird's only design elephant in the room. Let's talk about how heavy this car really was, and the engineering gymnastics Ford did to hide it. If you think modern SUVs are heavy, let me introduce you to the 1965 Thunderbird, Ford's personal luxury tank. This thing was built like they expected it to survive a zombie apocalypse. Unibody construction with subframes, cutting edge, sure, but also heavy as sin. Add in power windows, power seats, thick sound deadening, and you've got yourself a 4,500+ pound rolling lounge. And Ford didn't exactly publish the weight on billboards. They called it personal luxury, to distract you from the physics-defying cornering. It wasn't so much about driving as it was about gliding on a cloud made of lead, steering, numb, brakes. Worked hard for their paycheck, cornering. Let's just say you didn't so much turn as suggest a direction. Repairing minor fender benders could be a nightmare too. A tiny frame tweak could throw things out of alignment, and dealers were trained to hush that up with minor adjustments to keep customers happy. One Ford engineer supposedly joked it was like building a bank vault you could drive. Solid, Absolutely. Light? Not even in its dreams. But Ford wasn't done showing off. Because if you think a heavy car couldn't be high-tech, wait until you see how the convertible top turned into an automotive magic show. If you want to talk about pure hold-my-beer engineering, check out the 1965 Thunderbird convertible top. At the push of a button, the massive rear deck lid swung open backwards, like some giant mechanical clam. Then the entire soft top folded and stowed itself neatly inside. It was part show, part space-age tech, and 100% guaranteed to make your neighbour jealous. Ford loved demonstrating this at dealerships. It was their ace in the hole. Buyers were dazzled, but Ford salespeople didn't mention that the system had enough hydraulic lines, switches and relays to make NASA nervous. One leak? One bad relay? Suddenly you had the world's most expensive umbrella stand. Mechanics charged extra just to look at it, and many owners eventually just gave up on using it altogether. But you had to admire the ambition. This was 1960s America saying, we're going to build a convertible top that basically transforms like Optimus Prime, even if it occasionally transformed into an expensive headache instead. It was this mixture of brilliance and blind optimism that made the Thunderbird so unforgettable. But the convertible top wasn't the only place Ford channeled its inner jet engineer. Wait until you see what they did with the interior. It was literally inspired by airplane cockpits. Climb into a 1965 Thunderbird and you're instantly in the jet age. Ford didn't want drivers. They wanted asterisk pilots, asterisk. The dashboard wrapped around you like a cockpit. Toggle switches, deep-set round gauges with chrome rings, a horizontal speedometer that looked like it came off an F-104 starfighter. It was gorgeous. And for buyers in 1965, downright futuristic. You didn't drive the Thunderbird, you commanded it. Of course, there were trade-offs. Those cool toggles could wear out. Electrical contacts would get fussy. Sometimes the whole cluster would develop an orchestra of squeaks and rattles after a few years, and let's not even talk about the back seats. Ford's ads showed happy couples enjoying the roomy interior, but the reality? The rear was designed for people you didn't like much. Still, buyers loved it. They felt special. Ford knew what they were doing. They sold the Thunderbird as a personal luxury experience, a chance to live like a jet-setter, even if you never left Kansas. But here's the real secret. This car wasn't just about design or tech, it was about strategy. A very clever, very profitable strategy that changed the Thunderbird forever. Here's the biggest plot twist of all. The Thunderbird wasn't Ford's sports car. By 1965, it had fully morphed into a money-making luxury machine. Why? Competition. GM had launched the Buick Riviera and Pontiac Grand Prix. They were selling the dream of personal luxury coupes that made buyers feel like movie stars. Ford didn't want to be left behind, so they shifted the Thunderbird's mission entirely. No more two-seat sports car like 1955. This was about prestige, plush interiors, power everything, futuristic gizmos. Ford's marketing hammered personal luxury so hard it basically created the segment. And guess what? It worked. 1965. Thunderbird sales hit nearly 75,000 units, making it one of the most profitable cars in Ford's lineup. But there was a cost. Purists were furious. The T-Bird had gone soft. It wasn't a Corvette fighter anymore. It was a rolling living room with wings on the fenders. And Ford? They didn't care. They were too busy cashing checks. It was the classic bait and switch, but it sold like crazy. So next time you see a 65 Thunderbird, remember it's not just a car, it's Ford's masterclass in marketing and reinvention. And speaking of reinvention, let's wrap this up and talk about why, even with all these secrets, people still love it today. So there you have it, the 1965 Ford Thunderbird. A car that was part genius, part hot mess, all attitude. It was too heavy, too thirsty, and too complex for its own good. But it was also beautiful, futuristic, and unlike anything else on the road. Ford took risks, they hid a few truths, but they also built a legend. Even today, a well-kept 65 T-Bird turns heads like nothing else. It's a chrome-plated time capsule of American ambition, where style mattered more than sense, and engineering was as much art as science. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of history's most interesting rides, Subscribe to Ab Tech Lab for more stories like this. Leave a comment. Did you know these secrets? Ever seen one in person? Let's talk about it. Thanks for watching. And until next time, keep your engines purring and your curiosity revving.